My brothers and sisters, what is going on? This is Steel Sermon in the house, Wednesday evening with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. The link is posted in the box down below. This is Conference Championship Week, one of the best weekends of football in my opinion. We see who is going down to Glendale, Arizona to play for Super Bowl 57 to win one of the most sacred trophies in all of sports in the Vince Lombardi Trophy. As unfortunately for my season, it has come to an end as I fell short in the divisional round. So these are unofficial picks for my tournament for myself, but I'm making picks just to put my thoughts out there. This won't count for anything for me though. So yeah, my season's over with Pick'em. It was a good season for me, but just another disappointing end. But yeah, let's get on right to it. So just something to say before I make my picks. For those four that have made it, first of all, congratulations. You fought real hard this season. You made it this far. You had a real great run, and you are in the Final Four. So here's how this weekend in particular is going to go. So the highest seed between both players in the matchup gets to make one pick out of the two that they decide to have a lock. And then the other person has to pick the opposite of that team. So for example, my man Tiny Tim, he made the Final Four. Shout out to him. Tiny Tim made the Final Four. And just tonight, he locked up the 49ers. So his opponent, my buddy AJ, has to pick the Eagles. And then the other game that they can pick as they go. So that's how that works right there. So for those of you that are watching this video, watching the pick'em, that's how this goes. So, yep. Because remember, I had 1 year in this tournament where there was a tie in the Super Bowl and a tie in the Conference Championship. And I am just going to make sure that that never happens again. So I think this system will eliminate that. But yeah, that's how Conference Championship Week goes. And on to my picks I go. On to my predictions I go. This is Conference Championship Weekend. In the NFC Championship Game, we have the number 2 seed, San Francisco 49ers, flying out to Philadelphia to play the number 1 seed, Philadelphia Eagles. The 49ers have won a baker's dozen, 12 in a row. They are scolding hot coming in this game. The Eagles coming off a dominant win over the New York Giants, 38-7. So I was dead wrong with my upset pick right there, because if you tuned in, I said that the Giants would upset the Eagles. Man, oh man, was I wrong. But Philly, I mean, they just dominated from head to toe early on, and they never looked back. So let's talk about this matchup here. Obviously, when it comes to the 49ers, their bread and butter is their defense. They got the number 1 defense in the league coming in this matchup, and they're going up against probably the most diverse offense in the league in the Philadelphia Eagles. But a little bit of a weakness here, and it may sound like a good thing if you're an Eagles fan, is that the Eagles are a run-heavy team, which they're 3rd in rush attempts this season. They don't pass a whole lot. I think they're 22nd or 23rd in pass attempts this year. I know they're in the 20s, but it opens the door for kind of like a little bit of a predictable offense right there, mainly on the ground. And I think that's where the first advantage in this game goes to, and it's a pretty big one. The 49ers have the best rush defense in the league. And going up against Philly's offense, which, yeah, they have a relentless attack on the ground, no denying that. But when you factor in the 49ers have not allowed a 100-yard game on the ground to a running back this season, which is by far the lowest in the league, and they allow 3.5 yards per carry, that's going to be a big problem for the Eagles right there. But then you take a look at guys like Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and Boston Scott. They all had pretty big games in the divisional round against the Giants. So 49ers probably could be going into a little bit of uncharted territory right there, going up against a three-headed monster that can get it done on the ground right there instead of having to rely on one Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones having to know when to take off. And really, if you think about it, it may as well be the Fantastic Four because we all know how Jalen Hurts is. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, a big advantage for Philly. They're undefeated when Jalen Hurts starts an entire game this season, and he has a lot at his disposal as far as his weaponry goes. He's really improved his throwing mechanics, and the 49ers, for as great as their defense is, they tend to struggle a lot with wide receiver number ones, as they allowed CeeDee Lamb to have 117 yards on him in that divisional game against the Cowboys. And speaking of that, the 49ers, I can think back to two similar offenses that they faced against Philadelphia in the regular season, and it was against Chicago in week 1, and it was against Atlanta later in the season. And the 49ers, if you recall, they lost both those games. So this may be something to consider if you're a 49er fan right here. It may be deja vu a little bit as far as this particular matchup goes. But, however, you also take into consideration the 49ers weren't 100% healthy in both those games. They are completely healthy coming into this one against Philly. And when these two teams played each other, I think back in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, the 49ers won the game. Nick Bosa was able to track down Jalen Hurts a couple of times. And you may say, well, it was Jalen Hurts. He was still a little inexperienced at the time. The fact is that rush defense and Nick Bosa doing what he needed to do against Jalen Hurts proved evident in a 49er win. And then you look at guys like Lenore and Ward who have really stood out for San Francisco. But again, the Niners, they tend to struggle a little bit with tight ends. So I think Dallas Goedert here has to play a big role in Philly's passing attack, or their lack thereof, because like I said, Philly doesn't throw the ball a whole lot. That being said, Philly doesn't play great against running backs this year, as, like I said before, 49ers having the best rush defense in the league, that would open the door for CMC having the advantage over Philadelphia's run game, in my opinion. CMC has revolutionized the San Francisco offense, and I think the 49ers offense is a really big X factor in this game here. Brock Purdy, you take a look at him. He has a lot of it at his disposal to throw to as well. But the thing is, the main guys haven't been really doing much as far as production goes throughout the playoffs for the 49ers, except for one amazing catch by George Kittle against the Cowboys. But really, Deebo Samuel's been kind of quiet. And then I think it's with San Francisco, they got to try to mimic Philadelphia a little bit with feeding the ball to CMC a lot, But really, if Brock Purdy is going to win this game for San Francisco, he's got to make real wise decisions here. This may be too much of a tall order for Brock Purdy because this is my second biggest X factor here. Philly's pass defense is their strength on that defense there. For as physical and as talented as Philadelphia is up front, because we know that they can generate sacks. They led the league in sacks this season. Their pass defense is their bread and butter. So Brock Purdy, I think this is by far the best defense that Brock Purdy's going to have to go up against in his young career so far. The best team that he's going to go up against so far in his young career. Which kind of opens the door for a matchup between Mike McGlinchey and Hassan Reddick right there. Hassan Reddick's been a real standout guy for Philly. Mike McGlinchey, probably San Francisco's best blocker on that offensive line right there. So in conclusion, both these two teams have a lot going for them, and there's a lot of exposures to both teams that can open up the door to finding out a weakness. The 49ers, I think if they're to win this game, they gotta have Jalen Hurts beat you. This is Jalen Hurts' game to lose. Have him beat you have him beat you through the air. If you let Jalen Hurts have a strong day on the ground, it's going to be a long day for San Francisco. If their rush defense can't stop the three-headed beast that they have with Gainwell, Sanders, and Boston Scott, it's going to be a long day for San Francisco. That's my key to victory for the 49ers. Make Jalen Hurts beat you through the air. And my key to victory for Philadelphia, get the 49ers in an early hole. And I'm not talking about a 3-0 deficit or a 6-0 deficit. I'm talking about a double-digit lead, like 14-0. Because if you think about it, Brock Purdy hasn't really faced the odds when he's been trailing this entire season or when he's been starting. He's usually been playing with a lead. If Philly can build up an early double-digit lead against the 49ers, they're going to see what Brock Purdy truly is made of, and they're going to make him throw the ball quite a bit, and San Francisco is going to abandon the run. So those are my two keys to victories right there. Philly does have the defense to make Brock Purdy work, but the 49ers have the defense that can stop Philly at what they're best at doing. So this is going to be one heck of an NFC Championship. I can't wait to tune into it, but I'm sticking with my pick. I've been saying the 49ers are my pick to go to the Super Bowl since like the end of October, and I'm sticking by it. Philly, you got a phenomenal team out there. I'm not taking anything away from the Eagles. They are a phenomenal team over there. They're very physical. They expose your limitations. They expose your weaknesses. They prey on them, and they're diverse. But I just think the 49ers, with just that rush defense they got, with that being Philly's main attack on the ground and them not throwing the ball a lot, I think that outweighs what the Eagles are going to be able to do here. So a very difficult one for me to decide, even though this doesn't count as picks for me in my pick'em. These are just predictions for me. I like the 49ers a little bit more in this one. So I'm going to go San Francisco to go back to the Super Bowl for the second time in the past 4 seasons. Then the AFC Championship. We got a rematch of last year's AFC Championship between the number 3 seed Cincinnati Bengals going into Arrowhead once again to play the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs. The only difference between these two, the seedings are different. Chiefs were the 2nd seed last year. Bengals were, I think, the 4th seed last year. So that's really the only difference right now. But these two teams came back even better. Bengals have won 10 straight games. They took care of business against Buffalo last week. Surprisingly, very convincingly, 27-10. They got it done through the snow. Joe Burrow had a really good game, throwing for 245, a couple of touchdown passes. And the Chiefs, they got the job done over Jacksonville, but at a pretty big price. Patrick Mahomes injured his ankle against the Jags in that divisional game. He is expected to play, but if you expect Mahomes to be 100% good to go in this one, allow me to rain on your parade. So let's talk about these two teams right here, just to cut to the chase, because I want to get this video done as soon as possible because I have an early morning tomorrow. The Bengals, they are literally Kansas City's worst nightmare. Joe Burrow has not lost a road playoff game unless you want to count the Super Bowl last year. But in the AFC playoffs, he has not lost a road divisional game. And Andy Reid is notorious for choking in the the conference title game. He's 2-2 with Kansas City, 1-4 with Philadelphia. So that's it right there. The Bengals during the streak have scored 28.3 points per game. And the Chiefs, with how spotty that pass defense is, going up against the likes of Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, that's a really big concerning factor right there for Kansas City. They were able to hold, Zay Jones and Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk in check, but they're not, while I'm not saying they're not great receivers, or great weapons, it's just a little bit different when you go up against the trio that Cincinnati throws at you. Another big matchup here is going to be the pass rush versus the O-line right here. Bengals got a really good pass rush right here. In last year's AFC Championship, they were able to get to Mahomes 4 times. Mainly Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson are the culprits on that pass rush right there. I imagine Hendrickson's going to be going up against Orlando Brown, and Sam Hubbard's going to be going against Andrew Wiley Coyote. So that's it right there. But with that being said, the O-line does not give up a lot of sacks when it comes to Kansas City, and it didn't really allow them a whole lot in the playoffs so far. And Mahomes, when he does face his pressure, he usually does pretty well against it. I think Travis Kelce has to come to life in this one, like he did against Jacksonville. But you take a look at Cincinnati's defense. Their defense has held the tight ends to the 3rd lowest rating in the entire league. And when they matched up earlier this year and parts of even last year, they were able to lock down Travis Kelce. Held him to like 4 catches total. When you look at a guy like Isaiah Pacheco and Jarrett McKinnon on Kansas City, they're very reliable running backs and they're very reliable screenplay options for him. But that's outmatched by Cincinnati's defense that is able to hold running backs to the 5th lowest yards per catch this season and yards per carry. Bengals have done incredibly well when it comes to the running back in the backfield this year, and that's why that defense just keeps on improving. Pass defense for the Bengals versus Kansas City's pass defense, don't even get me started on that. It's a complete lopsided affair when it comes to that. Bengals pass defense locked down Stephon Diggs. When I thought that was going to be a nightmare matchup right there, Eli Apple on Stephon Diggs. Diggs didn't do a whole lot, And then you got the Chiefs' pass defense, which improved a little bit, but improving a little bit ain't going to save you much from a team like Cincinnati. Their pass, mainly Kansas City gets it done with defense on the pass rush. 55 sacks on the year for Kansas City. Phenomenal year as far as the pass rush goes. Chris Jones has been the main culprit for it, but Jones has been quiet so far, and he's going to have to go up against that Bengals O-line that's done a phenomenal job so far with protecting Burrow. Remember last year in that Titans game, Burrow got sacked 9 times in a win. Burrow didn't get hit, and he didn't get sacked a whole lot so far. And with the way Cincinnati's O-line has been guarding and protecting Burrow great this year, that opens the door up for their run game, and we know that Kansas City's rush defense isn't all that great. In conclusion, the Bengals are a terrible matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs. Key to victory for the Bengals, get the run game going, use your trio, expose the pass defense for Kansas City. Beat them up on the ground, beat them up on the air. Good old-fashioned football for the Bengals. As far as the Chiefs go, don't use Mahomes to his fullest extent in this one because he's not 100% healthy. The Chiefs need to bring the house heavily against Cincinnati in this one if they're to have a chance at winning, and they got to come up with some sort of creativity as far as the offense goes. That's really all I got to say as far as Kansas City. So yes, I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I do not like the Bengals, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't say the Bengals are just far and away the better team when it comes to them in Kansas City. I'm going with the Bengals to go back to the Super Bowl. That's right, back-to-back seasons, the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I just think that they're a better team than Kansas City is. They got way more momentum than Kansas City does, and they have way more built-up built-up hostility and built-up raw talent than Kansas City does. I like the Bengals in this matchup, so I'm going with them. So, my prediction for Super Bowl 57 down in Glendale, Arizona, will be a trilogy, part 3. Kind of like how we played the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl 3 times. The Cincinnati Bengals will be going up against the San Francisco 49ers for the third time in the Super Bowl. So that is my Super Bowl prediction right there. Bengals 49ers. And that will do it for my conference title picks. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. This is Steel Sermon checking on out for the night. May God be with you all.